days blurred together, each one an echo of the last. Routine had wrapped itself around my life like a tightening noose wake. Up, commute, work, return home, repeat. The monotony was suffocating, turning the world outside my window into something distant, something I watched but never truly experienced. For months, a quiet voice in the back of my mind had been whispering about escape, about adventure, about breaking free. I ignored it, telling myself that stability was more important, that predictability was safer. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Something had to change. I needed to feel alive again, to shake off the weight of repetition. So when I came across an old advertisement for a private expedition on a historic cargo ship, I didn't hesitate. I barely thought it through. I just booked my place, packed my bags, and braced myself for the unknown. The Blackwater was a rusting relic, abandoned for decades and steeped in mystery. It had vanished for 3 months before reappearing empty, untouched, its crew gone without a trace. Food sat uneaten, beds still unmade, as if life had simply stopped. The eerie tale should have scared me away, but instead, it drew me in. I craved something different, and this was unlike anything else. The dock was nearly empty as I approached the Blackwater, its rusted hull looming in the salty wind. The air carried a faint rot beneath the brine. A sparse crew moved in silence, and the 4 other passengers shared an unspoken tension. Captain Harris gave a blunt warning: no cell service, no emergency radio, just us and the sea. I should have felt excited, but as I stepped aboard, a deep, nameless dread took hold. That first night, as the Blackwater cut through the dark sea, an eerie silence settled over the ship, broken only by the groans of its aging frame. The corridors felt too empty, the shadows too deep. Every creak of the walls sounded almost human whispers, just beyond hearing. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination. But then, around midnight, I heard it something I couldn't explain. A soft knocking echoed from outside my cabin door. I froze, every muscle in my body tightening as I held my breath. The knock came again, slow, deliberate, as if someone was standing just beyond the door, waiting for me to respond. The air in the room felt heavier, colder, pressing against my skin like an unseen presence. My pulse pounded in my ears, my mind racing with possibilities. One of the other passengers? The crew? But why would anyone be knocking so late? I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the doorknob, before finally mustering the courage to pull it open. The hallway was empty. A cold gust of air swept past me, carrying with it a scent so pungent, so unmistakably wrong that it made my stomach churn. Rotting wood, seawater, and something else, something putrid, like old, decayed flesh left too long in the sun. The ship creaked around me, the dim overhead lights flickering slightly, casting long, wavering shadows along the corridor. My eyes darted from one end of the hall to the other, searching for any sign of movement. Nothing. Just stillness. Just silence. Just the feeling that something had been there a moment before and was now watching from the darkness beyond. The second night was worse. I had trouble sleeping, the ship groaning as if burdened by something unseen. At around 2 a.m., I woke up, heart pounding. I didn't know why until I saw the figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was a man, or what had once been a man. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken into hollow sockets. His clothes were tattered, soaked as if he had just crawled out of the ocean. Water dripped from his fingers, pooling onto the floor. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He just stood there, staring. I wanted to scream, but my throat closed up. My body refused to move. The only thing I could do was watch as he slowly lifted a hand and pointed toward the door. Then, he vanished. The air in the room grew warmer, as if whatever presence had been there had dissipated. I gasped for breath. my body finally free from whatever paralysis had gripped me. But I didn't sleep again that night. I couldn't. The next day, I told the others about what I had seen. They laughed it off, saying I must have been dreaming. But Captain Harris didn't. His expression darkened, and he pulled me aside. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked in a hushed tone. "The drowned man." I hesitated before nodding. Harris sighed. "You're not the first. Every few years, some fool gets the idea to sail this ship, and every time someone sees him, the crew of the Blackwater never made it back. But some say their spirits never left." "So what happens now?" I asked. Harris didn't answer, but his silence spoke volumes. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I saw another figure standing near the ship's bow. But this one was different. He was alive. A tall man dressed in an old-fashioned naval coat, his face partially obscured by the shadows. I hadn't seen him before, and yet he seemed to belong to the ship. I approached him cautiously. "Hey, who are you?" He turned slightly, his expression unreadable. "Just a traveler, like you." Something about him sent a shiver down my spine. "Where have you been? I haven't seen you since we boarded." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I've been here the whole time." Before I could ask anything else, he walked away, disappearing around a corner. When I followed, he was gone. As the days passed, the ship's atmosphere grew heavier. The other passengers began complaining of strange dreams, whispers in the dark. One night, I heard screaming from down the hall. When I rushed to see what had happened, I found one of the passengers, a man named Eric, sitting on the floor, shaking. "I saw him," he muttered. "He was in my room. He was drowning." The others dismissed it as hysteria, but I knew better. The ship was doing something to us. Then came the worst night of all. A storm had rolled in, waves crashing against the ship with violent force. I tried to sleep, but the walls seemed to close in on me. I could hear whispers, dozens of them, overlapping, pleading. Then the door to my cabin burst open. The ghostly figure stood there again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him, shadowy forms writhed, their faces twisted in agony. They reached for me, and in my panic, I bolted from the room, running blindly through the dark corridors. That's when I saw the mysterious man again, standing at the end of the hallway. "It's time," he said softly. "Time for what?" I demanded. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped aside, revealing a hatch leading down into the lower decks, a place we had been explicitly told to avoid. The whispers grew louder, urging me forward. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The truth beneath the waves. The lower decks were flooded, water reaching my ankles. The smell of decay was overpowering. And then I saw them. The crew. Their skeletal remains lay scattered, their uniforms still clinging to their bones. Some were slumped against the walls, others frozen in postures of desperation. But one thing stood out: each of them had been locked in from the outside. Someone had sealed them in and left them to die. A voice whispered in my ear, "They did this. They trapped us." I spun around, but there was no one there. The whisper came again, this time from the shadows. The drowned man stood among the corpses, his eyes filled with sorrow. Then I understood. The Blackwater hadn't been lost at sea. It had been cursed. The crew had been slaughtered, their souls bound to the ship, doomed to relive their violent fate over and over again. A hand shot out of the darkness, gripping my wrist. The mysterious man was beside me now, his presence colder than the ocean depths. His eyes, hollow and endless, bore into mine. "It's time for you to choose," he whispered. "Stay and join them, or leave and forget." My chest tightened. I could hear the wails of the damned in the wind, and something unseen moved in the shadow. Saw a dozen hands reaching, desperate, pulling toward me. That was enough. I wrenched my arm free and ran. I don't remember how I made it back to my cabin. only that by the time I did, the storm had passed. The air was unnaturally still, thick with the scent of salt and decay. The ship was eerily silent. No whispers, no flickering figures in the dark, just the gentle lapping of waves against the hull, as if nothing had ever happened. Had it all been a nightmare? A cruel trick of an exhausted mind? When we finally reached the shore, I walked away without a word. I didn't turn back. I didn't ask the other passengers what they had seen. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Maybe they had witnessed the same horrors. Maybe they had vanished into the shadows of that cursed ship. I never tried to find out what became of the Blackwater after that voyage. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the world is silent and sleep refuses to come, I hear it, a knocking at my door, slow, steady, a rhythm that doesn't belong. And in those moments, I know the Blackwater is still out there, adrift on an endless sea, its spectral crew waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to step aboard. I just pray it won't be you. Moral of the story is, curiosity can lead to discovery, but some mysteries are better left unsolved.